Heart-wrenching victim statements have been delivered during Erin Patterson's pre-sentence hearing. The murderer who took the lives of her in-laws and attempted to kill a fourth heard emotional testimonies of grieving family members in the Supreme Court. Among them, lone survivor Ian Wilkinson, who honoured his late wife, saying he feels only half alive without her. Patterson's estranged husband described the burden their children now bear, with almost everyone knowing that their mother killed their grandparents. For more, we are joined by Ruth Parker, a criminal lawyer live in Melbourne. Good morning, Ruth. So Patterson's sentence will be passed down on September the 8th. The prosecution is asking for life without parole. What do you think she's likely to get?
Well, that's the real question, Nat, because we've never really had a case like this, most particularly a case that can be classified as premeditated, calculated, and causing the death of three people who were arguably vulnerable because, firstly, they were older, but also they trusted her. They trusted to come to her house and they trusted to eat her food. The battleground here has always been whether or not she receives a non-parole period, so whether she has any possibility of ever being released from prison.
Yeah, so that's what the defence wants, about 30 years non-parole, and she'd get out when she was about 80. We heard some really moving statements yesterday, didn't we? Ian Wilkinson, the lone survivor of that lunch, had offered forgiveness. How much weight does the judge put on all these statements?
Well, look, victim impact statements are really there to give victims the opportunity to express themselves in court. There isn't a provision in the Sentencing Act to specifically allocate a sentence arising, for example, from a victim impact statement. But what we know is that they're used to really classify and categorise the offence on the scale of seriousness. So when you have multiple victims and you have multiple people who've been affected by the crime, then arguably the sentence should reflect that objective gravity. But of course, we can't classify human life by how many people write victim impact statements. So it's really quite a complex sentencing exercise to get that balance right.
I noticed the judge also said he'd give weighty considerations to Patterson's prison conditions. What does that mean?
Well, according to the evidence produced in court, and there was evidence from a very senior representative of Corrections Victoria, she is being held in conditions of her own protection, which really do amount to conditions of solitary confinement. Now, there is no argument that those conditions are inhumane. However, it's a balancing act that corrections would say, well, we either put her into the prison population and she's at risk, or we put her in these conditions, but they do reflect really conditions of solitary confinement. And so what the judge is saying, well, I have to sentence her to a lengthy period of imprisonment, but if her period of imprisonment is going to be particularly arduous because of these conditions, the law says that has to be taken into account.
OK, so maybe it's less. Gee, this is interesting. OK, Ruth, thank you for your insight. Here's Shervo.